But just a quick question I'd like to put out to somebody else is that what sort of things has, I mean, this is open to everybody, so you can all unmute yourself as you wish. What have you really thoroughly enjoyed during the lockdown period? Because obviously this Sunday, there's going to be a certain level of lockdown release, isn't there? So what exactly have you guys enjoyed? So whoever wants to go first, feel free and have a little bit of a discussion around what we've enjoyed during this lockdown period. Because everyone talks about lockdown being so negative. I'll start it off. For me, actually being very, I think everybody knows me, I'm quite present with my family, but actually literally being 100% at home, because I used to run 80% of my businesses from the house and 20% out and about. Being 100% at home, it's been quite enjoyable. And actually having a different pace of life, communicating, connecting, and having new technology, which is this kind of stuff that really, really connects with us all. I think that's been really, really interesting for myself. And I'd like to carry this on going forward. And logically, after lockdown comes down, I would love to continue with something socially and even doing some business projects over VoIP and voice, meaning voice over internet protocol, in specific Zoom. That's my take, and that's what I have to say.
I think for me, it's been, it sounds funny, but you know, doing like these kind of ninja shopping missions has been quite funny, right? Just going down to the shops and then, well, you know what I really, really enjoyed? Yeah, this is the geek in me coming out, right? But the Sainsbury's smart app, you know, you just literally go around scanning the items, put it in your bag, and then you go to the end and you scan it on the, and then you just check out, and you don't need to chat to anyone, do anything, just go walk out. I think that's been kind of funny. That's been kind of funny as well. And yeah, I reckon the rest of it's been pretty. I mean, I'm kind of used to working from home anyway.
But you know, on that conversation you just had a moment with those machines, has anybody kind of trialed them when they first saw them and just never touched them again? But all of a sudden now everybody's grabbing them and there's none there.
Yeah,
no, I've seen them. I've seen people using them. I find it quite interesting. Like they're going around zapping, because you think. At first I thought, why are they just putting their shopping away? How come they're not going to go to the till? And then I realised they're holding some sort of gadget that was reading the barcode as they were going along. So I've not tried it myself. I don't shop in Sainsbury's or anything. I go to Lidl's, and they don't do them in Lidl's.
It's quite interesting. It looks as though that somebody's actually, it's kind of been pre-planned for quite some time. Nudge, nudge, wink, wink. So I'm going to come to Koz a second. Koz, I'm going to push you a little bit. Talk to us about your COVID app before you disappear, because you've got to go. I already know a little bit about it. We had a good conversation on the call earlier this week, but you've created a COVID tracking app and obviously scanning with video. Please go, carry on. Go, Koz.
So in its simplest form, all that we do is track and trace the devices that can actually test whether you've got COVID or not into a health records platform. And from that, what we can do is we provide procurement dashboards to hospitals so that they can manage all of their supplies, all of their assets, and make it, well, hone in on what they need to have at the right time. So we can provide forecasts as well for them. Essentially, it all started where we were tracking and tracing surgical devices as they were being implanted into people. So you can imagine if you have a knee implant, you'd want to know exactly what type of a knee implant that was, what batch it was, and update procurement teams as soon as it is used. And this can also update medical device companies to tell them that that actual device has been consumed. It's quite an integrated system, and currently the way that assets are managed in hospitals is quite archaic. What tends to happen in some hospitals, they write it down on a piece of paper and then they go over to the procurement team, and then they update some antiquated Excel spreadsheet, and then an email is sent to the medical device teams, blah, blah, blah. But essentially, we've streamlined all of that from wholesaler to the patient themselves so that they can know exactly what is put into their body, and if there is any kind of clinical information that is associated with that device, we can link it.
So, Koz, I'm going to stretch you a little bit here. So at what point, and I'm sure everybody will have a similar sort of question, Rav, you're definitely on this one, I know.
Just to clarify that point, I was going into neurosurgery. I never became a full consultant neurosurgeon, just to clarify that point.
No worries at all. You can't take this from a medical background, can you? Just to put it right, you could have been a legal background guy as well. Just a good question. Okay, so, Cos, I'm gonna ask you a question. At what point does this become intrusive to another agenda of possibly sharing our information openly in the open marketplace? And what point does it become intrusive? I'm not talking about your application, I'm talking about as a whole, because being able to grab people's information out of a touch of a hat, and as soon as they walk in via a camera, knowing who they are, there's actually an active system in India already functioning like this as well, where you walk in, it temperature checks you. If your temperature's high, it says, please go into the other queue. If your temperature's all right, then you can go speak to the doctor. If not, then you go over here. So they're already pulling up all your information by just visualizing yourself. You can put your ID number in and that's it, job done. They've got all your data there. But at what point does this become intrusive? Just a quick answer, not a long one. And I know we're touching on controversy here. That's all good. No problem. Conspiracy is good.
Okay. I think it depends on the level at which the data is being gathered and how that can affect your life in general. And if you've got control over that data. So essentially the way that we manage the data is by providing healthcare passports. And so the patient essentially at all levels can consent to how the data is managed, unless you're in a country where there are laws associated to infectious diseases. So,
got it. Makes a lot of sense. That's pretty cool. Any other questions? Anybody? Anything new you want to bring to the marketplace?
I would wonder if in the future, with this technology, we would have our blood groups on there. And for instance, when people need a marrowbone transfusion, and they have terrible problems in getting hold of people with the right things that they need in them to make it a match, would that sort of information, could that information be on your own personalized healthcare, so that if your bone marrow or something about your blood, if for instance you have a rare blood group, and then you could be called in much quicker and much easier to help other people?
Yeah, so essentially,
nice one.
The technology that we've developed, we actually expose a lot of highly secure APIs. APIs are essentially the doorways into the databases, for want of a better phrase. And so with every piece of data, we've created essentially an API. And because of that structure that we've built, you can create a lot of other marketplaces associated with that. So one of the things would be any kind of transplant service, essentially. One of the things that we're actually looking at doing is creating some kind of a marketplace for transplant services.
I think that's fascinating. I think that's, yeah, what you said, Trina, about that, I think that's
makes a lot of sense.
Amazing.
Obviously, much the same as a donor card, we're already integrating electronic donor cards into Apple Pay and Apple product as well. So Apple Health is all there. I think it's a great idea.
In terms of people's personas, how would you break down the segments? So you gather data through API, you've kind of collected all that data. So in terms of segmentation, age, individual, geography, demographics, and getting someone what they need, how would you compile that data and find a solution for the individual?
Well, you'd have to talk to my CTO, sign an NDA. We'd have to blindfold you and take you to our sub-level domains before I answer that question, my friend.
There's one man giant to another.
I think that one would be based on what consent is given from the actual user as to what data can be shared. And I think it could, I don't know, but it could be boiling down to like what level of customization you choose in your app to be able to say, yeah, allow this data, don't allow that. And then loosely probably do something around that. Because the main thing is always going to come down to that sharing of data, isn't it? And how much we...
It's also about my persona of my needs and requirements and how you kind of manage me. So if I buy apples, don't send me pears. It's all about finding the right solution for me.
Yeah. And that would be based around what you've set I would imagine that in the technology, that when it becomes available, that whatever you put in there as your requirement and what you allow and say, this is the kind of thing I'm after, then it would be customized around to that.
Well, the most interesting thing that interests me is the marketplace piece. That's very, very interesting to me.
That's a good question, Dave. You know, you gave us a investment, basically trades taken and trades made. So give us your view on what you think has changed. Is it all to do with spread bet change? The fact that whether the market goes up or down, it makes no difference. When give us a view. Why do you think it's increased?
So, well, essentially, what's happened is the market bottomed out, so everybody jumped in, which makes sense, right? You know, if you buy at the bottom, there's a good chance over the years you're gonna make some good money. Actually, the spread betting side of things, Sukhi, didn't change that much.
Okay.
So people expected it to, but it didn't. So day trading didn't change particularly, and there's not as many day traders as people think. In my opinion, because day trading invariably doesn't work. The true position of buying stock and holding is where the money is. A bit like property, right?
Yeah.
Buy property and wait, right? It's no different in the stock market, really. But it sounds like there's going to be a big shift back to the individual. So an example of what's happened in the past is that, does everyone know what an IPO is? So an IPO is when someone decides they want to float their company on the stock market. So it's an initial public offering. But what happens is sometimes if they want to go back for more money, they do like a secondary public offering. Those secondary offerings rarely make it to the individual, if at all. And there's companies now, for example, a company called Primary Bid, that have come into the marketplace to start offering that service to the individual. And there's other companies I've seen starting to materialize, what are they called? Investor Meet, for example. Well, what they're doing is they're trying to bring, so I'm a CEO of a company. If I want investment, I'll go to an institution and get that investment. They're now saying that sort of information should be available to individuals. So Investor Meet are creating a platform where individual investors can get access to that sort of information. So if I wanted to, and the reason that it's important is because a secondary public offering, they would often discount the shares. So me as an individual, if I own shares in Vodafone, for example, and then they do a secondary public offering where institutions buy it, the value of my shares goes down, and I've had no influence or an opportunity to buy in at the cheaper stage. It's only after that stage is gone. So Primary Bid, for example, put these secondary public offerings, and within minutes they've been taken up. Like, you know, you'd need to get on, and within 13, 14 minutes go in and buy those shares, because that's how quickly they go.
Got it.
But obviously, historically, you wouldn't even get the opportunity, because it would just, they would go to a pension or a broker, and they would just offer it out to institutions. And I think that's potentially synonymous with the rest of the world, right? That, you know, we've been, since the 90s, it's been all about institutions and developing institutions, and the world has been focused on institutions. And I think it's not just my industry that's waking up to say, actually, the individual matters as well, right? And that,
as Dylan's saying.
Yeah.
They do.
Wonderful. He's correct.
I think in my part of the industry, that's where it's going, is that individuals will have more say again in what's...
Nice one, thanks. Any questions on that?
Here's a couple of things that I could say about that. If it's going to become decentralized, essentially, we're going to see a lot more kind of shares and trades being made associated with blockchain technology and Bitcoin and Ethereum and all those kind of technologies being traded. The other thing that I've heard actually is that there has been an increase in people actually doing what did you call it before?
Day trading.
Day trading as well. there has actually been an increase, but that increase has actually equated to a loss in people's money because of the high fluctuations that have been going on recently. So people have just blown it.
Yeah, my personal opinion, and it really is personal opinion because it's down to the individual. Like, don't day trade. That's my personal opinion. You know, I think it'd be the same. Partly because whenever you're trading, you're being charged, right? Whether it's on a spread or a transaction fee, or there's a cost to doing it, right? So the best way is the Warren Buffett way, right? And it's slow and boring and takes years, but for me, that's the best way, right? Try and find assets as cheap as possible, but not cheap assets, but
what you know basically is going to increase over a period of time.
over a period of time and over years, right? And let compound do its thing, you know. Bitcoin, things like that. I mean, I'll be honest, I don't know a lot about that. The part of the industry I'm in, it gets talked about a lot, but no one's really. The only people I know buying and selling Bitcoins are the odd person, and it seems to be odd person to odd person. There doesn't seem to be. I don't know. It's not a part of the world I really know, but blockchain's making its way into my world. No one really knows what it'll do yet, but it's making its way.
There's little flutters around the world about digital currencies, so we could potentially see that, you know, opening up. But it's not mainstream yet.
We've got a whole department devoted to blockchain, but I've not yet seen it actually. There's no part of the world that's now like this runs on blockchain. So it seems one of those parts of the industry. It might, in other people might have more exposure to it than me, but
nice one.
Yeah.
Thank you. So just a question I'm going to ask you. Anybody any question on that? Because I'm just going to move on to another topic I've got in my mind, which I think will be helpful as well. Thanks for everybody contributing to such cool topics, COVID and money, funding and stuff. There's a topic I wanted to talk about. D, I know you're up there, I know you're quiet, whichever you're going, but I've got an answer. I wanted to help somebody in this group, everybody here.
Okay.
I think everyone here is basically in a different position. You're all in business of some kind. Now, we all know there's two types of government support. There's one, a grant, which obviously doesn't have to be paid back. And there's also what we call bounce back loans or support loans of some kind. So D, I know you've had a lovely win with reference to something like that. Could you just help anybody in how easy it was and what you did to get the loan in, etc.
Yeah,
and everybody else, you're welcome to take notes and stuff.
Yeah, sure. Because the first actual one they come out with wasn't very easy to get through to, but this one I went online because I bank with Barclays. There's a straight form, you fill in all your details, and actually I got my money today. So yeah, that's very easy. It's I think there's a good success rate. You know, they're helping everyone. You know, like it's 25% of your turnover, up to £200,000. First year is interest free. Then it's 6 years at 2.5%.
Which is nothing.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, very.
Do you need a business bank account to apply for that, or is it?
Yeah, I think because I had a business bank account with them. You can apply to different banks, but if you do it with the bank you're with, it's easier, I think. But if you do it, you can do it. There's about 6 or 7 banks. There's information on the government website. But I just, because Barclays sent me an email, I just done it with them because I bank with them and it was easier.
Anybody else? Yeah?
Yeah, actually, on that same point, I think Starling Bank is launching their version of those bounce back loans next week. Yeah. And they're going to be open to anyone. So you don't have to bank with them, but obviously in the process, you'll probably open an account with them, which is very easy to do.
That's right. Very, very valid point. Thanks, Bhupinder, because Starling themselves, you can carry on in a minute, but Starling themselves is becoming what we classify as the lead in open banking anyway. So they're really, really taking a lot of structural there. They're opening it to everybody. Everybody services everybody, by the way. The other reason why Barclays to Barclays, HSB to HSB is just because they've got the history of your account, that's all. Please carry on, Bhupinder.
Yeah, and the other thing with those bounce back loans is obviously the first year is interest free, which is great. And so you can, after that first year, if you're able to pay it back without having to pay any interest in effect. And the other good thing about those is that you don't have to have an actual reason for borrowing that money. So it
That's
could
the
just
key.
be paying yourself over this period.
It's a good idea.
As long as you're going to make the money back next year.
So that's such a valid point. I'm going to tell everybody, think about it this way around. All of you, if you're in a business, you've got any business account, go to your current banker and get yourself some form of business banking loan if you can get it back. And I'll explain why. Because you're talking about grants. Grants logically are issued by HMRC and they don't have to be paid back. That's the purpose of that. But a loan, getting yourself a 12 months interest free and then 2.5% is probably better than you'd get if you went to a bank prior to this. But here's the point. If you have something in your hand, if you have liquid cash, there are going to be some properties which are already starting to come through. I'm getting an average of about around 300 to 400 a week that are being sent to me, which need to be cleared. That's larger properties, smaller properties. If all of us lot, by the way, this is not FCA regulated. If you want to be involved in something like that, get in touch with myself. If you can raise some capital, 25, 30,000 pounds, throw it together. I can probably assist you guys to buy a larger property. Does that make sense? You can pool your cash together. It's just sort of thought anyway. Warren, you had something to say.
Well, I was looking at the bounce back loan earlier today, because as we were saying that the other one was a nightmare. And all I did was just fill the form in and send it off. And then I get a response from them, and they will be in touch with me next week, basically, with my bank. But one of the other questions that I wanted to check in is that because I have multiple business, with these bounce back loan and different things, if you pull all your income together, for example, and just do it on that, or you could just do it in a particular one. Which one is?
You could do it individually. That's my opinion. You could do it individually because you're asking the company to get a bounce back loan, not you personally. If you've got a limited business account, you get each one of the companies and you go through each one of them separately.
Thank you. All right, I'll do that. Thanks a lot.
Same with anybody who's got one, Yoko, anybody else who's got a business account, Manjot, all of you, you can all go for a bounce back loan. At the end of the day, if they give it to you, that's great. You can still decline it, but at least you get yourself cleared. Is what I'm trying to say, is get it authorized.
Yes.
Yeah, it's very straightforward, very easy.
Really straightforward. One form, bang. Even Ian, even if you're online, I know you're thinking about, you've got a couple of property, I know your personal details, but you got properties as well. So you could even apply through your property account quite easily. Just to let you know, all of you
doing it.
Yeah.
Sorry?
Already doing it.
Well done. Good. I'm just trying to stimulate that action because it's really important to do it, because if there are expenses that are going to see us, unless you're in the groceries industry or if you're in the online trading industry, online delivery industry, and also the restaurant or takeaway industry, your businesses are all down. Okay. Every other business is just shooting through the roof. And obviously IT, without that fintech and stuff that maybe causes it, that sort of stuff is booming. I appreciate that, which is subjective to now. But overall, everybody's feeling a pinch, especially the property industry. All of us are all in that same space. Okay. So just give that a thought over to your mind. Think about if you've got the opportunity, you've got a business account, apply.
It took me, I think, about 5 minutes to just fill out the form, and most of those minutes were spent looking up my company number. I just couldn't sit there, I couldn't find it.
Oh, wow.
But apart from that, it was otherwise going to be a minute's exercise to fill out a form, and that was with Santander. And I think I didn't actually check immediately, but or regularly enough, but I did check 2 days later, and the money had already arrived in the account. So yeah.
How amazing is that? I just want all of you to remember that, get those forms filled, get them returned, and surprise yourself at how quickly they come in. Rav, you do it as well. Jatinder, you do it as well. If you've got a company account, Sudhir, you as well. You've got a company account, do it. Get it in there and see how quickly it turns up.
This is a thought that comes into my head here just a minute ago, okay, about so many properties that will come onto the market that you could use delay completions or options on.
100% you can. That's a very exciting concept here. Property-wise, for example, every day I'm getting another property sent to me, okay? So I'm still waiting, because actually the same properties that were offered to me at the start of this lockdown period have actually dropped in price already. And there's a lot of people out there trying to talk about the fact that off-market, there is no such thing as off-market. Everything's on the market if you're trying to sell it. Off-market basically is a direct reference to whether it's on an electronic portal or whether somebody is offering it for you. If you're direct to the first person who's selling the property, that is genuinely off market if they haven't put it on any of the portals. Does that make sense? If it's not offered in the open market, and you can have a negotiation. If anybody wants to talk about it in a bit more detail, catch me anytime and I'll walk them through individual projects. So if you've got a project that's offered to you, I can walk you through that to let you say exactly what you need to do next. Honestly, properties, the lenders, there's about two lenders now who are still offering 75% LTV. They've got their hands cuffed based upon desktop valuations. Keep that in mind as well. So there's a few things that are changing, but it's getting better. Trina, I want you to just talk a little bit more about, if you don't mind, the blogging. So for example, everybody ask questions. I think Manjeet's got a ton of questions. I can see her ready for this pounce. Tell us what you're doing. I mean, how is it that you're getting such a traction, do you think, on some of your
well, I talk about things. Sometimes it's about my business. Sometimes it's about what's going on in the world. And I do, for instance, the best one I think I've ever done is I play a lot of King's Solitaire, which is you use 3 packs. And I do it online, and I talk about how I play this game and how, sometimes I have to go back 4 steps to go forward and finish the game. And I switched it to, is that what you're doing in business? Have you thought about looking at your business in a different way and moving backwards? And then you actually go forward much further than you would be if you were staying where you'd finish the game and it wouldn't come out. So it's about seeing something. I mean, I did one about daffodils, right? And it was about spring and what makes you think of spring. And I turned that round to what's in business. So it's about, all I do is I sit in my chair in my sitting room with my phone. I think, what am I going to write about today? And I look at the dog, for instance. And I talk about something about the dog to what's your proudest moment. My proudest moment was actually going best of breed at Crufts twice. And what's your proudest moment in business? How did it make you feel? How did you get there? So whatever I'm talking about, I always switch it to what's about the business. So
got it. So you're taking a concept, like for example, solitaire or a chess game or whatever it is, but using the framework of that or the strategy behind that and applying it to our current business or current life. Yeah.
Or one was, do you think you're born with a silver spoon in your mouth? Because you see someone in the same business as you, but they're going way ahead and you're not. No, you haven't seen what's going on behind the scenes where they've been working really hard for the last 3 years. So I've been, anything, nice. Something like on your desk.
So, great tips there. Look at the framework.
I think that's awesome. It's like what's coming across is you being very authentic.
Oh, yeah.
And that sounds really, really good because I think it, from what you're sharing, it doesn't sound like it's a sales pitch or marketing or anything. It just seems to be authentic, sharing your something's like something, and it's got like embedded message in it, which I think is really good.
Thank you.
Embedded commands. I love it.
The other thing is don't market. Really, really don't. And the other thing is replying to all the people that have written on your blog. And as I said before, always do it with 5 words. Now, sometimes I think, I don't know what the hell I can say to this person. So I go something, very interesting, Jane Brooks, because I use their name and that's 2 words.
Yeah. So then are you probably responding back more than once? By the way, hi, Baz. You're going to be next, Baz. You're going to be giving us a 60-second introduction. We're just talking about blogging at the minute. So if you've run out of 5, back to Trina, if you're running out of 5 words, then you could kind of say it over 2 posts, 2 replies, couldn't you, really?
Yeah, sometimes I do. Yeah, because they reply back and I reply back to them. And it's also, I'd just like to say I am dyslexic, so writing things for me is not the most easiest. It's really out of my comfort zone. But I have done it, and I've only been doing it for about 3 weeks, and it's getting easier. It's just like you're on Facebook and you're replying to a friend on Facebook. And that's how I think of it as.
So have you been posting on LinkedIn and Facebook or just?
Just LinkedIn.
Okay.
Just LinkedIn.
Does it have to be 5 words or can it go over?
Oh yeah, it can be, the more the better. Yeah, but I mean, sometimes when you go and I think, oh, I don't want to say to this person, they haven't put enough for me to get the idea of what they're talking about. So, but you must reply to every single person. I've even had a Bible basher on there.
Right.
And I mean, oh. But I did reply to them. So, you know, even wasn't negative, but he was beginning to push the Bible a bit. And the next time he wrote, I did ignore him, because it's not about religion, any religion. It's just about what I'm talking about.
So in those situations, would you like a little tip there? Just basically put God bless, agree with them and God bless, thank you very much. And then they'll just move on to the next person. So it just calms the process down, because everyone has their own version of the world, because it's nothing really to do with the Bible per se, because it's not the Bible is wrong or right. It's basically the utilizer, the person who's utilizing it. So for example, if I'm in a bad place, it doesn't make a difference whether I'm a Sikh quoting something wrong from the Sikh religion as well.
Does take time. I must spend about 20 minutes writing my blog, and then I go back in, probably 4 or 5 times during the day to answer people. And that is a slow process, because you click on, it goes through, you read it, you answer it. To answer the next one, you have to go back in and come back out again. So it's a long, slow process. So it does take time. So just
thank you. Thank you very much. Commitment, resilience, relentlessness. I love it.
Thank you for sharing, Trina.
Keep tagging us in. Thank you for sharing. Where has he gone? Mr. Harvey, where are you?
Hi.
Aha, yeah. You're next. I wanted to talk about what you spoke about the Moon Project.
Well, I mean, what I've been sort of loving is the fact that normally when I'm doing my sort of job, most of it is at night, because most of the celebrities I photograph are coming out of a place at like 11 o'clock at night. So it doesn't give me a chance to really enjoy astronomy. But now, without being able to do my work, every night I've been going to a local rugby field, setting up my camera and just seeing what I can get. So, like, have you heard about like the Starlink satellite?
Yeah.
See the satellites. You see the satellites.
Yes.
Talk about it.
Yeah, I've been trying to get them. Sometimes with success, sometimes without success, because sometimes it can be sort of very hard to see them. But due to the lack of aircraft as well, it's actually helped with the atmosphere. So it's a lot easier to see these things now. So like, for example, Monday night, I counted about 25 satellites. Now, admittedly, 20 of those were the Starlink satellites, but 5 were totally different satellites as well. So I've got like meteorites, I've got all sorts of things. Been getting the planets as well. Like there was recently an alignment of, I think it was Jupiter, Saturn, Mars and Venus. So trying to get 4 planets in one photograph was a good challenge to get. And as I say, with this photo of the moon, hang on, I've just got to stop my alarm. Alexa, stop. Sorry, my Alexa's gone off for some reason. But yeah, so
he's listening to you, mate. That's what it is.
It's the moon conspiracy.
But, yeah, so with this weird like moon photo, I was just trying to get the full moon, and I was just banging off a load of pictures. And it wasn't until I got home that I noticed I had this like really weird thing on there. And I looked at the photos that were taken before and after, and there was like one photo taken 5 seconds before and one photo taken 8 seconds after, and this thing does not show up on it. So I don't know whether it's an asteroid, could be a UFO or something like that. But
Rav, come on, I want info.
Really?
Yeah, I'm just interested.
Come on, Rav, I want some info now.
I haven't got any info, but yeah, it's like, yeah, I'm just intrigued.
I will say this: if you do look into the sky, sometimes I've seen quite a lot of weird things over the last few weeks. So I've actually seen what should have been a satellite just do a 90-degree turn, which is what they don't do. So it was really quite amazing. And I also saw another thing, and I'll describe it on the screen. So literally 2 things came together stopped, and then went off again. So, and what was annoying was I thought I'd videoed it, and I hadn't, because it was just so faint that my camera just couldn't pick up on those two things, whilst my eyes could. So, yeah, I would say look up at the skies at night. You will see some amazing things.
What's the best kind of equipment to sort of use?
Night gazing.
Night gazing.
To start off with.
Definitely a tripod, because you need to have something that's really sturdy. So what I do is I do a time lapse. So I get my tripod out, I set it up, I set the camera up with a wide angle lens. So I don't go into sort of, because that way with a wide angle you can catch as much as you can of the sky. And because my camera shoots at a really high resolution, it means I can always crop in and zoom in on like certain parts of the sky and have no loss of quality. And I think as long as you let the camera run for, let's say, about half an hour, you're guaranteed you're going to get something going across. Whether it's a meteorite going into the atmosphere or whether it's a satellite, you will capture something.
Are you using like a telescope with it?
No, I'm using an ordinary DSLR camera with a very wide angle lens, and it works just fine. I mean, I've tried all different cameras. So I tried using my compact camera the other night, but unfortunately the compact camera doesn't focus very well on stars. So I've tried using my 4K video camera, and that works a bit better. But bizarrely, I've been able to catch the satellites on my mobile phone.
Oh.
So I've actually found this is actually better than my compact camera. So all you need to do is just like hold it up to the sky, and just sort of leave it there and just try and sort of get the stuff going across. But
Chris, forgive me for popping in, but is this the Skynet satellite that you're talking about?
Yeah, the Starlink.
Skynet.
Skynet is in
Terminator.
I got what you just said.
Yeah. So there's a very, so if you type in find Starlink, about 2 different websites that tell you when they're going overhead. So I know that tonight you're not going to get much of a chance to see them, but there's other nights where the increased probability is a lot more likely due to the weather and their position, sort of where they're traveling over, because they don't always travel over England every night. So yeah, have a look on the website.
Question for yourself. Sorry there. Trina's just asked a question here. She's saying, well, she's made a statement that when she used to live somewhere where there was less light pollution with the amber lights and stuff, so she got to see the stars better. Do you find, because a lot of us in the cities and places like that with the camera lens and the shutter speeds and everything, is there anything that get past the haze and the glow? Because obviously it's different when using a telescopic lens that you've got. You know, you've got plenty of them as well. But you know, the small basic phones and the basic Instacams, does that make a difference?
I don't think it does, because when I've been shooting with my camera, I've been having a sort of very long exposure times, so it does lighten up everything, but then again it does make it a lot easier to see. So for example, if I had it on a very sort of quick shutter of let's say 0.0 of a second, it would be a lot dark and it would be a lot harder to see the details. So yeah, a nice long exposure, and even if it's light outside, the cameras can sometimes see stuff that we can't.
So that's the difference. I got it.
Yeah, because you remember, like, when we're like, I'll give you a very good example. A couple of years ago, when I got one of my new lenses, I went into central London. I was right by St Paul's Cathedral, and I just pointed the camera up in the sky. I had my tripod with me, and I just kept it on for a few seconds, and I was able to see stars that I just could not see with my sort of naked eye, because it was just gathering as much information as it could, which we can't do.
So it's the length of the exposure which you want to really open.
Yes, yeah, and as long as you play with the exposure for the environment, you will get some great results. So that's why I've done like many tests when I've been outside. Like,
love it.
I've been experimenting experimenting with like video as well. So I
Nice
literally a whole night where I was just talking to the camera, saying what settings I had, so I could work out what would be the best one to film the satellites with. So yeah, so it's gone
Amazing.
well.
Yeah, I've got another question over here from Ranjit. So it's going back to earlier question about enjoying lockdown. I've noticed. Thank you very much, Chris. I'm going to move to another topic in a moment. But anybody else got another topic after this? I'm just going to read it out. It says, I've noticed that the skies have been with reduced pollution. Okay, I like that. Is this meant that the night sky is a bit clearer? I can see better. This is. I always thought that light pollution caused quality. So, by the sounds of that, Ranjit, I assume. Do you want to air it?
Yeah, it was just. I think I went for a walk yesterday, and yeah, you hear the birds sing. The sky is blue, and you actually just take much more notice of nature around you. And I mean, there's been a lot more wildlife coming into my garden in the last few weeks than there's ever been before. We even had a mouse, a field mouse, coming in. So we just stood there, photographed it, looked at it for ages. But the night sky is definitely a lot more clearer. I'm just you just kind of take a bit of a back step and just soak it in.
It's so.
And I feel that's what's the I guess when things do start to ease up again, people start going back to their daily lives. That will be the biggest thing I feel we'll lose is the fact that nature has kind of managed to reclaim itself to a point.
Because what we've got a situation where possibly we have a conversation within ourselves that we couldn't hear the birds before because we weren't listening, or it could have been the din of the road works and the road noise and overall living of urbanness. The second thing is, could it be the fact that we're at home more so we can actually see more? Maybe the mouse was probably there before we were. I don't know. I'm just messing around a little bit of thinking here.
Interesting.
Because the other day I was looking out, and anybody who's been to my house, and most of you have, I'm blessed to have 4 acres of estate. So when I'm looking out, I was just sawing, and I saw this beautiful pygmy deer in my garden, not like over the road. It managed to pop itself over. It was in my back garden. Now that only happened about 4 years ago. So the question arises: did that happen 4 years ago, or is it that I've just seen it now because I'm at home looking outside? It's a deep question, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, lovely. So thank you for that.
Actually, a little while ago, I went. There's a Facebook group called the Baker Street Astronomers Meet, and they meet up once a month in Regent's Park. And we turned up there, and there were about a dozen people with these huge telescopes, and just really happy to talk about what and you could sort of look into their telescopes and they'd say, look, that's the International Space Station going over there. That's Mercury. It's not a star, it's Mercury, and so on. So that was great. It's just totally free. Once a month they meet up. Obviously not during lockdown, but after. Well,
maybe they might be online somewhere, right? Maybe have a look at YouTube. Yeah,
it's definitely a Facebook group. I'll have to look it up again, but yeah.
Yeah, they do tend to put their meetings out very, very quickly. Like they're telling like maybe 48 hours in advance. Because I've been to the astronomy group. They're generally really interesting sort of people. Yeah. That's cool. Telescopes they have are amazing. So I went to see. When there was a transit of Venus in front of the sun, and that was absolutely amazing, just seeing this planet just go across the face of the sun.
Wow. I mean, that sounds really cool. I was thinking that they tend to work really fast. Can you imagine it? You got 3 minutes! Quickly! We're about to go live because something's going to happen in the world. Thank you, team.
Yeah, I just wanted to kind of like, because you mentioned family earlier. So my mother-in-law, she's in her 70s, been in lockdown longer.
She regularly comes here for a cup of tea, or at least offering a cup of tea to us every week she's been here.
She's gardening, so she's outside downstairs today. She's been in the garden all day. She loves the gardening, so she won't come in today. She's obviously been in lockdown a lot longer than the rest of us. So, and then gradually I've started to, like I said, come on, Mom, let's go for a walk kind of thing. So what I actually did, so I was going for a walk by myself, which I absolutely loved because it gave me thinking space and emptying my head and whatever. And then I started going with Mum, and then I started thinking, well, where's my time in all of this? So I struck up a deal with myself where I would get my time. I would get time with Mum, which I really enjoy in the mornings because it's just me and her. And then then I was okay, so where do I fit market into all of this? So what I did, the 7 days in a week. So Mondays, Wednesdays, Fridays, me and Mum, 7:30 every morning, we go for a walk.